The war in Ukraine has entered yet another brutal chapter, and with every passing day, the front lines produce new stories of strategy, survival, and sudden destruction. Each clash leaves behind ruins, burned-out vehicles, and scars across the land. But among the countless engagements, certain battles stand out. One such confrontation unfolded when the Ukrainian Azov Brigade launched a devastating ambush against Russian troops dug into a network of defensive trenches. What followed was not just another firefight, it was a demonstration of how modern warfare has reshaped even the oldest strategies of battle. Trenches, once seen as fortresses of protection, were turned into cages of death. This battle illustrates both the violence of war and the ongoing evolution of military tactics in the 21st century. At the muddy, shell-scarred front lines of Ukraine, Russian forces had been working relentlessly to entrench themselves. For weeks, soldiers carved lines into the earth, constructing zigzagging pathways, dugouts, and connecting tunnels. These trenches stretched across fields and tree lines, forming what they believed was an impenetrable shield against advancing Ukrainian units. They were designed to protect men from artillery shells, machine gun fire, and airstrikes. In many ways, they looked like they belonged to another century. Narrow scars cut into the ground, where men crouched low in the damp cold, hoping that walls of dirt would keep them alive. But what the Russian troops did not realize was that their defensive preparations were being observed. The Azov Brigade had been watching from a distance, their eyes not just on the surface, but in the skies above. Small drones hovered silently over the battlefield, mapping every angle and every weakness. Forward scouts noted the routine of the defenders, when they rested, when they moved, when supplies came in, and when watchfulness faded into fatigue. Days of reconnaissance revealed the entire design of the trench network. Every entrance, every bend, every dead end became part of Azov's plan. By the time the ambush was ready, the Ukrainians knew the Russian position better than the soldiers who sat inside it. When the moment came, the attack began without warning. Smoke canisters blurred visibility, muffling shapes into shadows. Then came the first rattle of gunfire, short, violent bursts tearing into the silence of the front. Automatic rifles cracked in unison, while grenades arced through the air, dropping into narrow dugouts where men had no space to run. The assault did not come from a single direction, but from many. Azov fighters advanced simultaneously from multiple flanks, creating the impression of overwhelming numbers. Within seconds, the trenches that once felt safe became a death trap. Explosions roared through confined corridors, the sound echoing violently off earthen walls. The Russian defenders were trapped by their own defenses. In the narrow confines of the trench, choices vanished. Soldiers who tried to climb out exposed themselves to gunfire. Those who stayed low faced grenades rolling at their feet. In such spaces, a single explosion could kill or wound half a squad. Panic spread quickly. Men screamed, fired wildly, and scrambled for escape that did not exist. What was supposed to be a bastion of safety turned into a coffin carved from dirt. The psychological shock was devastating. The sudden realization that every turn, every exit, and every fallback route was blocked shattered morale. Once fear spread, discipline collapsed. Battlefield footage revealed the raw chaos. Smoke and dust cloaked the air, flashes of gunfire illuminated shadows, and Russian soldiers crouched desperately, clutching their rifles and shaking hands. The sounds of grenades bouncing into corners were followed by shattering blasts. Azov fighters moved methodically, clearing one trench section at a time, advancing with calculated aggression. Their discipline was clear. They did not rush blindly, but advanced with coordination, covering each other, ensuring no Russian soldier could regroup or escape. Above them, drones continued to orbit, relaying real-time updates, guiding every movement with precision. The ambush was more than just another firefight. It symbolized the transformation of trench warfare itself. A century ago, during World War I, trenches stretched for hundreds of miles, allowing armies to hold ground for years. They shielded soldiers from relentless artillery, from sweeping machine gun fire, and from advancing infantry waves. In World War II, trenches were still used, but often supplemented with bunkers, minefields, and barbed wire. They were defensive systems that could stall entire offensives. But in the 21st century, warfare has changed. Precision strikes, overhead surveillance, and highly mobile infantry units have rewritten the rules. What once made trenches powerful, protection, concealment, endurance, now makes them vulnerable. Drones can peer inside them, guided munitions can target their entrances, and fast-moving attackers can surround them before defenders realize what is happening. The Azov Brigade exploited this reality perfectly. They did not simply charge into the trenches, they studied them, mapped their weaknesses, and executed a plan that turned static defense into helpless immobility. The walls of earth that once promised survival instead became barriers to escape. The ambush illustrates a simple but crucial truth. Static defense is no longer enough. In modern battlefields, flexibility, speed, and awareness are far more decisive than sheer fortification. Military analysts point to this ambush as a textbook case study in modern tactics. It shows how a smaller, disciplined force can dismantle a larger entrenched one with preparation and timing. It highlights the importance of drones not only as strike weapons, but as intelligence tools that turn the battlefield into a transparent map. And it demonstrates the psychological factor. When soldiers believe they are safe but suddenly realize they are trapped, panic becomes more dangerous than bullets. The Russian soldiers in these trenches were not just defeated physically, they were defeated mentally, their morale collapsing under the weight of fear. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian fighters advanced with professionalism. Their assault was carefully synchronized. Some squads laid down suppressive fire, pinning defenders in place. Others moved forward, hurling grenades with deadly accuracy. A third group maneuvered behind the lines, cutting off escape routes. Every step was part of a plan. Within minutes, the fortified trench network was reduced to rubble, silence, and scattered bodies. Survivors fled in disarray, abandoning weapons and equipment. What had been a stronghold was now a graveyard, and Azov emerged not only with victory, but with a psychological edge. For Ukraine, victories like this carry meaning far beyond the battlefield. Each successful ambush is a message that determination, discipline, and tactical intelligence can overcome superior numbers. Each story becomes a symbol of resistance and resilience, shared across the country as proof that the fight continues and that every inch of land is contested. For Russia, however, each defeat chips away at the image of invincibility once spread by state propaganda. Trenches, parades, and speeches may promise strength, but losses on the ground tell another story. The lessons from this battle extend far beyond Ukraine. For military planners worldwide, it reinforces the idea that the battlefield of today is one of transparency and speed. Static defenses, no matter how deep, are vulnerable if they cannot adapt. The age of hidden armies in trenches is over. The age of instant surveillance and precision strikes has begun. Every movement can be tracked. Every position can be mapped. Every weakness can be exploited. And yet, war remains deeply human. Beyond the drones, the rifles, and the grenades, there are men caught in the middle, frightened, exhausted, fighting for survival. The screams inside the trenches, the desperation to escape, the shock of realizing safety was an illusion. These are the timeless realities of battle. War is not only about weapons, it is about willpower, psychology, and the breaking point where human endurance fails. This ambush by the Azov Brigade will be remembered not only as a tactical success, but also as a symbol of how war itself continues to evolve. It is a war where information is as decisive as firepower, where speed outweighs numbers, and where the difference between survival and annihilation is measured in moments. In Ukraine today, front lines shift constantly, and no position is ever truly secure. As the conflict grinds on, each side searches for new advantages. For Ukraine, ambushes like this demonstrate the effectiveness of smaller, smarter, faster units who can turn the weaknesses of a larger enemy into opportunities. For Russia, it is a harsh reminder that even the deepest trenches cannot guarantee safety. And for the rest of the world, this battle is a window into the future of combat, a future defined not by static lines, but by mobility, adaptability, and relentless innovation. This battle, fought in mud and fire, reminds us of the timeless truth of war, that strength alone is not enough, and that those who adapt fastest are those who survive. A position thought unbreakable can collapse in minutes. A soldier who feels safe one moment may be fighting for his life the next. War is unpredictable, unforgiving, and relentless. Thank you for watching. Support this channel to continue receiving analysis and stories from the world's battlefields. Until next time, this is Delta History.